I want to tell you something I noticed at the grocery store 3 weeks ago. I was standing in the canned goods aisle at my regular Walmart. Nothing special, just grabbing my usual stuff. And I stopped, because I realized the shelf looked different. Not empty, just thin. Like someone had been quietly buying more than usual. And the prices on the tags were higher than what I remembered from 2 months ago. I pulled out my phone right there and started checking. I went home and spent 2 hours going through reports, retail data, commodity pricing, and what food manufacturers have been quietly telling investors. And what I found made me put together this list. Most people are going to walk into their grocery store 6 months from now and feel the shock all at once. You are not going to be one of those people. By the end of this video, you are going to have a clear, specific, affordable list of exactly what to stock up on right now, before prices climb further. These are not exotic items. These are things you already use every week. And number 11 on this list is the one that genuinely surprised me. You will not see it coming. I will get to it, I promise. If you are not subscribed yet, do that now. I put out content like this every week, and the people who catch it early are always glad they did. Let's get into it. Item number 1. Dried lentils. This one does not get nearly enough credit. Lentils are one of the most calorie-dense, protein-rich, shelf-stable foods you can buy for under $2 a pound. A single bag feeds a family for multiple meals. And yet, most Americans walk right past them. Here is what matters right now. Global pulse crops, that is the category lentils fall into, have seen growing pressure from drought conditions in key producing regions in Canada and India. Supply tightness in 2025 carried into 2026, and retailers have quietly started passing those costs forward. I checked prices at 3 stores near me last month. The 1-pound bags of green lentils had gone up roughly 20 to 30 cents each compared to the same time last year. That sounds small, but multiply it across the whole shelf and you see a pattern. I personally keep 12 pounds of dried lentils in rotation at home. They last 2 or more years in a sealed container. They cook in under 30 minutes, no soaking required. You can use them in soups, stews, curries, or as a rice extender. They are filling, they are nutritious, and right now they are still cheap enough that stocking up costs almost nothing. Grab 4 to 6 pounds now and rotate them into your regular meals. You will not regret it. Item number 2. White rice. I know, you have heard this one before, but stay with me because the reason matters. Rice is a global commodity. When fuel costs go up, shipping costs go up. When shipping costs go up, the price of imported rice goes up. The United States imports a significant portion of its rice supply, and freight costs have remained elevated through early 2026. On top of that, there were export restrictions placed by major rice-producing countries in 2023 and parts of 2024 that rippled through global inventories. Those inventories are still recovering. Industry analysts tracking agricultural commodities have flagged this as a persistent pressure point through the rest of the year. I started buying 20-pound bags from Costco instead of the smaller grocery store bags. The per-pound price difference is significant. And stored in a sealed bucket with an oxygen absorber, white rice lasts 5 years easily. Some estimates put it at 25 or more under ideal conditions. White rice is the foundation of hundreds of meals. It is the easiest food to store. It is inexpensive right now. There is no good reason not to have at least 20 pounds in your home this month. Your future self will thank you the next time prices climb or a supply disruption hits. Item number 3. Canned tomatoes. This is the one that surprised me most in terms of how fast prices moved. Canned tomatoes, crushed, diced, whole, paste, went through a noticeable price jump over the past 18 months. The reason is a combination of factors. Drought conditions in California's Central Valley, which produces a massive portion of the US processing tomato crop, combined with higher tin costs and increased labor costs at canneries. When I walked through the canned goods section recently, I saw name-brand canned crushed tomatoes sitting at over $1.50 per can in some stores. 18 months ago, those same cans were under $1 in many places. I use canned tomatoes almost every week. Pasta sauce, chili, soup bases, shakshuka, braised dishes. Tomatoes go into a huge portion of home cooking. They are a flavour backbone for so many meals. What I did was stock up on store-brand canned tomatoes, which are still priced lower. And I picked up a case of tomato paste tubes from Amazon. Paste gives you concentrated flavour, it lasts longer once opened, and a little goes a long way. Buy a case of 12 to 24 cans now. Store them in a cool, dark place. This is one of the most practical things you can do for your pantry today. Item number 4. Rolled oats. Here is something I noticed that I do not think a lot of people have picked up on yet. Oats are facing the same kind of quiet price pressure as most grains. Oat production in North America had a rough stretch over the past few years with irregular weather patterns. Combined with growing demand, oats are now in everything from granola to oat milk to packaged snacks. The supply to demand balance has been tightening. Old-fashioned rolled oats are still one of the cheapest foods per serving on the planet. A large canister gives you dozens of breakfasts. They are also incredibly versatile. You can make oatmeal, baked oat dishes, overnight oats, granola, and use them in baking. I personally buy the large bags from Walmart or the bulk section and transfer them into airtight containers at home. Rolled oats stored properly last 12 to 24 months. You can extend that further with oxygen absorbers in a sealed Mylar bag. The price per serving right now on rolled oats is still under 25 cents per bowl in most cases. When processed breakfast cereals are costing $4, $5, $6 a box for a week's worth of breakfasts, that gap is enormous. Stock up now, while oats are still one of the best budget buys in the entire store. A few large bags cost almost nothing and give you months of reliable, nutritious breakfasts. Item number 5. Canned beans. Pinto, black, kidney, chickpeas. All of them. This one matters for the same reason lentils matter, but canned beans have an added layer. You are paying for convenience. The dried version is cheaper per serving. But canned beans are already cooked, last 2 to 5 years on the shelf, and require zero prep time. In a busy household or an emergency situation, that matters. Canned bean prices have been creeping up steadily. Part of this is aluminum and tin costs. Part of it is labor costs at processing facilities. Part of it is simply that beans are now recognized as a protein alternative and demand has grown across demographics. I spoke with someone who works in food retail distribution. They mentioned that private label canned goods, store brands, have actually been more stable in pricing than name brands simply because the margin structure is different. So if you are stocking up, the Walmart Great Value or Kroger store brand cans are a smarter buy right now than the branded options. Get at least 30 to 40 cans across varieties. Rotate them into your regular cooking. Beans and chili, bean soup, bean salads, bean burritos. They are one of the most filling and affordable proteins available. This is not complicated. It is just smart. Item number 6. Pasta. I buy pasta every single month, and I started paying closer attention to what was happening with the price roughly a year ago. Semolina wheat, the main ingredient in dried pasta, is sourced globally and has been subject to the same agricultural pressures as most grains. The pasta aisle at most grocery stores today looks more expensive than it did 2 years ago. The 1-pound boxes that used to sit at 79 cents or 99 cents in many stores are now regularly priced at $1.25 to $1.59 at name brand levels. That is still cheap food, but the trajectory matters. Pasta prices have been moving in one direction, and there is no structural reason for that to reverse. I buy pasta in the largest quantities I can find, the 5-pound bags where available, or multi-packs when stores put them on sale. Dried pasta stores essentially indefinitely if you keep it cool and dry. I have had pasta in my pantry for 2 years with zero quality loss. Spaghetti, penne, rotini, elbow macaroni. Keep a variety. Different shapes hold different sauces. Having 20 to 30 pounds of pasta on hand sounds like a lot until you realize how many meals that covers and how little it costs per serving. This is one of the easiest and cheapest ways to bulletproof your pantry against future price increases. Item number 7. Cooking oil pay. Attention to this one, because this one is already happening faster than most people realize. Vegetable oil, canola oil, and sunflower oil prices have all experienced significant volatility since 2022. The conflict in Ukraine, a major global sunflower oil producer, disrupted supply chains in ways that are still working through the system. Palm oil supply has also been affected by weather events in Southeast Asia. When I checked prices at multiple stores recently, I found that a standard 48-ounce bottle of vegetable oil that used to cost around $2.50 is now sitting at $4 or more in many locations. That is a near doubling over 2 to 3 years. You use oil constantly in cooking. It does not get the same attention as bread or eggs, but it is foundational to almost every savory meal. And unlike some foods, oil cannot easily be substituted away from without changing how you cook entirely. I stock up on large jugs, the gallon-sized containers, when I find them on sale. I also keep a bottle of olive oil for finishing and dressings, though extra virgin olive oil has its own pricing pressures that deserve a whole separate conversation. Buy 2 to 3 large containers of your preferred cooking oil now. Store them in a cool, dark place. Unopened cooking oil typically lasts 12 to 24 months. It is cheap insurance. Item number 8, canned fish. This is the item that most people completely overlook, and I think it deserves serious attention. Canned tuna, canned salmon, and canned sardines are among the most nutrient-dense, shelf-stable, high-protein foods you can buy at a grocery store, and they have been rising in price consistently. Canned tuna, which was genuinely cheap even 5 years ago, has gone through multiple price increases driven by fuel costs for fishing vessels, reduced catch quotas in some regions, and general commodity inflation. A can of chunk-light tuna that cost under $1 regularly is now sitting at $1.25 to $1.50 in many stores. Canned salmon is already a premium product by comparison, but it offers something tuna does not, which is higher omega-3 content and a richer flavor profile. Sardines are the underrated powerhouse on this list. They are cheaper than tuna per can, higher in omega-3s, high in calcium, and they are one of the few canned fish products where supply is relatively stable. I personally rotate a supply of all 3 in my pantry. 30 to 40 cans total. I use tuna in pasta, salads, and sandwiches. Salmon goes into patties or rice bowls. Sardines I eat straight on crackers or toast with mustard. The protein value per dollar on canned fish is extraordinary. Stock up while the pricing is still manageable. Item number 9. Peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of those foods that feels like it should always be affordable. And it still is, relative to many protein sources. But the trend line has been moving. Peanut crops in the southeastern United States had weather-related yield pressure in 2024 and into 2025. Peanut butter manufacturers absorbed some of that cost for a while before passing it forward. If you have been buying peanut butter regularly, you have probably noticed the price on your preferred brand has gone up quietly over the past year or two. A standard 18-ounce jar of major brand peanut butter that used to cost around $2.50 is now closer to $3.50 to $4 in many markets. That is a significant jump for a pantry staple. Peanut butter is calorie-dense, high in protein and fat, incredibly versatile, and it keeps for 12 months or longer unopened. It is a foundational survival food for people watching their budget. I buy the store brand natural peanut butter from Costco in the 2-pack. Per ounce, it is significantly cheaper than the name brand single jars. If you have a membership anywhere that sells large format pantry goods, this is one of the best uses of that access. Get at least 4 to 6 large jars. Your breakfasts, lunches, and snacks will thank you. Item number 10. Bouillon cubes and concentrated stock. This one sounds boring. It is not. Here is the thing most home cooks do not think about. Flavor is the difference between eating well on a tight budget and feeling like you are suffering. And nothing delivers concentrated flavor for almost no money like bouillon cubes and concentrated stock paste. Chicken bouillon, beef bouillon, vegetable bouillon. A box of 50 cubes costs under $3 and flavors 50 pots of soup, rice, or braise. The math is almost absurd. Concentrated stock paste, products like Better Than Bouillon that you can find at most grocery stores and Costco, is even more flexible. One jar makes dozens of cups of stock. It lasts months in the refrigerator after opening, and the flavor quality is dramatically better than the cube version. I looked at what happens to home food spending during economic pressure periods. People do not necessarily cut what they eat. They cut how they flavor it. And that is where meals start to feel like a chore instead of a pleasure. Having a well-stocked supply of flavor builders like bouillon and stock concentrate means your lentil soup and your bean stew actually taste like something. Buy 2 or 3 jars of your preferred concentrated stock. Buy a large box of bouillon cubes as backup. This is one of the cheapest, highest value purchases on this entire list. Item number 11. Dried pasta sauce mix and seasoning packets. Stay with me on this one, because this surprised me when I dug into it. I am not talking about the jarred tomato sauce. I am talking about the dry sauce mixes, the taco seasoning, the chili seasoning, the spaghetti seasoning packets, the gravy mixes, these little envelopes that cost under $1 each. Here is what I found. These products have been some of the steepest percentage price increases in the entire grocery store. A taco seasoning packet that cost 49 cents 2 years ago is now 89 cents to $1 in many stores. That is nearly a 100% increase on a product most people grab without thinking. And the reason is actually fascinating. These products are made from dried spices, which are sourced globally. Cumin, chili powder, garlic, paprika. All of these have had supply disruptions from weather events in their primary growing regions. The packaging costs went up, the distribution costs went up. And because each individual packet costs so little, most consumers do not notice the percentage increase. They just grab it. But you are not most consumers. You are the person watching this video. What I do now is buy my spices in bulk from restaurant supply stores or the bulk spice section when my grocery store has one. I also buy the large containers instead of the single-use packets whenever possible. For taco seasoning, I make my own blend from bulk cumin, chili powder, garlic powder, and onion powder. Costs pennies per batch. Stock your spice pantry now. Whole spices and bulk spice blends. Do not let this category drain your budget one little packet at a time. Item number 12. Honey. Honey is a long-term pantry item that most people do not stock strategically. They should. Here is what makes honey special from a storage standpoint. Archaeologists have found edible honey in ancient Egyptian tombs. It does not expire. Genuine honey stored properly lasts indefinitely. That alone makes it worth having in volume. But here is the pricing issue. Honey prices have been climbing. Bee colony collapse disorder remains a persistent problem for domestic honey production. Import regulations and tariff adjustments on foreign honey, particularly from China and other major producing countries, have created price instability at the retail level. A standard 24-ounce bottle of honey that cost around $5 a couple of years ago is now $8 to $10 at major grocery stores, depending on brand and location. That is a significant move. I switched to buying a 5-pound bucket of raw honey from a local supplier or online bulk retailer. The per-ounce cost drops significantly at that scale. And because honey never expires, there is zero risk to buying more than you need in the short term. Honey is also one of the few sweeteners with legitimate antimicrobial properties. It has practical uses beyond sweetening: wound care, sore throat relief, preserving. It is genuinely useful to have in volume. Get a large container now. You will use it. It will not go bad. And the price is only going in one direction. Item number 13. canned corn and green beans. These feel mundane. They should feel essential. Canned vegetables are one of the most underrated food categories in any budget pantry. They are fully cooked, nutrition preserved, shelf stable for 2 to 5 years, and incredibly affordable per serving. And yet most budget advice barely mentions them. Canned corn and canned green beans specifically are versatile enough to go into a huge number of dishes. Corn goes into chili, soups, casseroles, rice dishes, and can be eaten straight as a side with almost any meal. Green beans work the same way, as a side, in stews, in casseroles. I noticed when I was doing my own shopping recently that the private label canned vegetables at Walmart were still under $1 per can for most items. Name brand cans had already crossed that threshold in many cases. The quality difference is minimal or non-existent for most canned vegetables. They come from the same processing facilities in many cases. Buy a case of each, 24 cans. That sounds like a lot until you do the math. 24 cans of corn for under $20. That is months of side dishes. This is boring advice. But boring advice is often the right advice when it comes to protecting your grocery budget. Item number 14. Apple cider vinegar. This is a purchase that works on multiple levels. Apple cider vinegar is a cooking ingredient, a food preservative, a cleaning agent, and has a wide range of wellness applications that make it one of the most versatile cheap items in your entire home. And a gallon jug lasts a very long time. Vinegar prices have been more stable than many food categories, but they are not immune to the same pressures hitting everything else. And because a gallon of apple cider vinegar costs around $5 to $7 and lasts a year or more in regular use, there is very little downside to buying in volume now. I use it in salad dressings, marinades, pickling, and I add a tablespoon to water when I want to support digestion. It also functions as a non-toxic surface cleaner in the kitchen when diluted. One product, many uses. If you are also into home food preservation, making your own pickled vegetables for instance, having a large supply of vinegar is essential. Pickled vegetables extend the shelf life of produce dramatically and let you take advantage of produce deals without waste. Keep a gallon or two in your pantry. This is one of the best low-cost, high-value purchases on this entire list. Item number 15. Dried split peas. Split peas are lentils' less famous cousin, and they deserve more attention than they get. Yellow and green split peas cook into a thick, hearty, protein-rich soup or porridge. They are priced similarly to lentils, under $2 a pound in most stores. They store as well as any dried legume, lasting years in a sealed container. And they require no soaking, just a rinse and a pot. Split pea soup is one of the cheapest, most filling, most nutritious meals you can make. A pound of split peas, some bouillon, an onion, and whatever vegetables you have on hand makes a pot of soup that feeds 4 to 6 people for a meal cost of under $3 total. I started including split peas in my regular pantry rotation after I did a cost per meal calculation on different protein sources. Split peas came out near the top. They are not glamorous, but neither is paying $7 for a pound of ground beef when a pound of split peas delivers comparable protein for a fraction of the cost. Buy a few pounds. Look up a simple split pea soup recipe. Make it once. You will understand why I'm putting it on this list. Item number 16. Shelf-stable milk. This one catches a lot of people off guard. Shelf-stable milk, sometimes called UHT milk or ultra-pasteurized milk, is real dairy milk that has been processed to remain unrefrigerated until opened. It comes in small individual cartons or larger 1-litre boxes. Brands like Horizon and Parmalat are the most common. Regular fluid milk prices have been volatile for years. Supply disruptions, feed cost increases for dairy cattle, and distribution challenges have all pushed retail milk prices up significantly over the past 3 years. Having a pantry supply of shelf-stable milk means you are not dependent on the refrigerated dairy case. Once opened, shelf-stable milk behaves like regular milk. But unopened, it lasts 7 to 12 months at room temperature. That is extraordinary for a dairy product. I keep a case of the individual serving cartons for cooking and coffee during any stretch where I have not gotten to the store. I also keep a few litre-sized boxes as backup. The taste is slightly different from fresh milk, very slightly. But in a cooked application like oatmeal, soup, or baked goods, the difference is undetectable. This is the kind of item that feels unnecessary until the moment you actually need it. Then you are very glad you have it. Item number 17. Baking soda and baking powder. I am going to keep this one short because the logic is simple. Flour, baking soda, and baking powder together are the foundation of homemade bread, biscuits, pancakes, muffins, and almost every baked good. If you learn to bake your own bread, even simple no-knead bread, you reduce your dependence on store-bought bread, which has been one of the most consistently rising food categories over the past 3 years. Commercial bread at major grocery stores in 2026 is expensive. A decent loaf is easily $3 to $5 or more. Homemade bread from flour, water, salt, and yeast costs a fraction of that per loaf. Baking powder goes stale and should be replaced every 6 months to a year. Baking soda lasts much longer. Keep several containers of each on hand. This is about more than just saving money on one item. It is about shifting toward home production of a food category that has become genuinely expensive to buy commercially. That shift pays dividends every single week. Item number 18. All-purpose flour, which brings me directly to flour itself. Wheat flour is a global commodity with global pressures. It has not been immune to the same supply and pricing dynamics affecting every other grain on this list. But it remains one of the cheapest foods per pound you can buy, and one of the most versatile. A 5-pound bag of all-purpose flour in 2026 is still under $3 in most stores. But the 50-pound bags, which you can find at Costco, restaurant supply stores, or agricultural co-ops, bring the per-pound cost down even further. If you have the storage space, buying flour in larger quantities and storing it in sealed food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers extends its shelf life to 2 to 3 years or beyond. This is the approach serious home bakers and preppers use. It is not extreme. It is just smart math. Combined with your yeast, baking soda, baking powder, and salt, a bulk flour supply means you can bake your own bread indefinitely. That is a meaningful source of food security that costs almost nothing to establish. Item number 19. Dry yeast. Yeast is the piece most people forget. You can have flour, water, and salt. And without yeast, you are making flatbread, which is perfectly fine, but limits your options. Dry active yeast and instant yeast both store extremely well in the refrigerator or freezer. Properly stored, a sealed packet or jar of dry yeast lasts a year at room temperature and 2 to 4 years in the freezer. Yeast prices have been creeping upward quietly. The small 3-packet strips that used to cost $1 at the grocery store are now closer to $2 in many places. The 4-ounce jars, which give you the equivalent of many, many packets, are the better value and the better storage option. I keep a large jar of instant yeast in my freezer. I scoop out what I need for each batch of bread and return the rest to the freezer. I have never had a yeast failure using this method. Buy a jar now. Learn one simple bread recipe. Even a no-knead loaf that takes 5 minutes of active work. The cost per loaf when you bake your own is under 50 cents. No grocery store bread comes close to that. Item number 20. Salt. I am ending on this one because I want you to really think about it. Salt is the oldest food preservation ingredient in human history. Before refrigeration, salt was how the entire human race preserved food. It is the reason cities were founded, wars were fought, trade routes were established. The Romans paid soldiers in salt. That is where the word salary comes from. And right now, a 26-ounce container of iodized salt at most grocery stores costs under $1.50. A large 5-pound bag costs around $3. At the restaurant supply level, a 25-pound bag of kosher salt is $10 to $15. Salt does not expire. It is literally a mineral. It does not go bad. And it is foundational to every single thing you cook. It is also one of the most important tools in food preservation: brining, curing, fermentation, pickling. All of these require salt. Having a large supply of salt costs almost nothing and gives you a foundational resource that ties together your entire pantry. It makes your dried beans taste good. It seasons your rice. It preserves your vegetables. It cures your meat. Buy more salt than you think you need. At these prices, there is no reason not to. Here is the pattern I want you to see across all 20 of these items. This is not about panic. This is not about filling your basement with enough food to survive the apocalypse. This is about recognizing that food prices move in one direction over time, that certain categories are already under pressure, and that the people who act early always pay less than the people who wait. Every item on this list is something you already use. Every item is something that stores for months or years without going bad. Every item is available right now at prices that will likely look like a deal 12 months from today. The people who stock up on these 20 items this month are going to spend the next year reaching into a full pantry and feeling good about it. The people who do not are going to feel the price increases in real time, at the register, every single week. You now know what most people are going to figure out too late. The question is what you do with that knowledge today. If this video helped you, hit subscribe right now. I put out content like this every week. Pricing trends, shopping strategies, what to buy and what to avoid. The people who follow along are always ahead of the curve. Leave a comment below and tell me which item on this list surprised you the most. I read every single one of them, and I will see you in the next video.